This week on Superstitious, we examine 4 different ways to beat Krampus. Krampus is a 2015 horror comedy movie written and directed by Michael Dougherty, the writer and director of 2007's Trick or Treat. The film is about the Engel family having to face off against the demon and his minions during their Christmas reunion. Throughout the film, the family gets picked off one by one until everyone gets caught by Krampus. The film doesn't take itself too seriously, which is what makes it work, and it's a great addition to the holiday movie lineup. However, after rewatching the film a couple of times, I noticed some things the Engel family could have done to not only beat Krampus, but avoid the situation altogether. But before we get to the solutions, let's review 6 conditions we have to consider so we can beat Krampus. The first thing we have to consider is Krampus himself. Unlike Santa Claus, whose origin can be traced back to a real-life person, Krampus is a different beast altogether. Usually described as a half-goat, half-demon creature, the origins of Krampus go back even further than Santa. While more modern retellings make Krampus a sidekick to Santa Claus, he's actually a mythical creature on par with a pagan god. Some even say that Krampus is the son of Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld, and grandchild to Loki. In Christian lore, he's even considered a version of the devil, hence his horned look. Ultimately, the Engel family is facing off against a godlike creature, so fighting it mano a mano is probably not a good idea. It's also unlikely that Santa Claus would come to the rescue. As cool as the idea of Krampus versus Santa Claus may seem, as I mentioned earlier, Krampus is one of Santa Claus's sidekicks, which means the jolly fat man is perfectly fine with Krampus doing his thing. Krampus is essentially doing Santa Claus's dirty work, but instead of coal, you get a one-way ticket to hell. The second thing we have to consider is his ability to change reality, which is likely one of his powers as a godlike being. In the film, we see how he's able to change the weather from a regular winter night to a severe blizzard, just like that. Not only that, but depending on your interpretation of the ending, Krampus either undoes everything that happened in the film, or he traps the family in a snow globe for all time. Either way, it shows he has the power to bend reality at his will. Knowing this, we can discard any solutions that involve escaping the area. Since Krampus can bend reality, it doesn't matter where you go, as he will make it physically impossible to escape. The third thing we must consider is the never-ending amount of minions Krampus has at his disposal. It's not only necessary to beat Krampus himself, but we also need to find a way to beat his minions as well. In fact, Krampus only takes out 2 members of the Engel family himself, Omi and Max. Everyone else is taken out by one of his minions. Whatever solution we come up with has to address all the monsters, not just Krampus. The fourth condition we must consider is that the Engels won't simply cut ties with their family. Since it's basically Max's extended family that causes him to summon Krampus, the easy solution would be to cut them off. However, as Tom puts it,
because that's what a family is, Max. People you try to be friends with even though you don't have a whole lot in common.
Any solution we come up with has to consider that Max will be around his cousins no matter what. The fifth condition is that Krampus only appears when he is summoned. While it is his job to punish those who have been naughty, it seems like he doesn't go to everyone who's been a jerk during the year. For example, the movie starts with a bunch of people acting crazy over Christmas shopping. Some even look happy as they attack others. From this, and the general disdain the Engel family members seem to have for one another, we can assume that there's just as many jerks in that reality as there is in ours. This lets us know that Krampus doesn't simply show up and take out every naughty person in the world. Otherwise, it would be a perfect utopia. Instead, since Krampus only shows up after Max destroys his Christmas letter and scatters it into the wind, we can assume that he has to be summoned to appear. Moreover, we see a similar thing happen when Omi wishes her family away and Krampus shows up. So the way to summon Krampus is for someone who believes in Christmas to turn around and wish for something that represents the opposite of the Christmas spirit. The last thing we have to consider is that Max actually beat Krampus at the end of the movie. While the movie leaves the ending open for interpretation, the graphic novel clarifies the ending a bit more. Titled Krampus: Shadow of St. Nicholas, the graphic novel covers 3 connected stories of people dealing with Krampus and the aftermath. Without giving too much away, taking the additional information in the graphic novel, it's likely that Krampus undid everything in the movie once Max was willing to sacrifice himself for his family. Unlike Omi, who wished her family away and did nothing while they were taken, Max took his wish back and even offered himself as a sacrifice to the big guy. So while Omi's family never came back, Max got a redo and is reunited with his family at the end of the film. The snow globe that we see is not some sort of prison, but more likely Krampus' version of a TV screen. Krampus uses the futuristic technology of snow globes to look into the families that have summoned him over the years to make sure they live up to the true spirit of Christmas. However, while Max made the right choice at the end by sacrificing himself, it didn't even need to get to that point. So without further ado, the following are 4 ways to beat Krampus. The first thing the Angles can try is use fire as a weapon. If you're already deep in it, then figuring out a way to combat Krampus on equal footing can help. While he is a powerful mythical creature, even mythical beings have weaknesses, and fire seems to be Krampus' weak spot. One of the first things he does is freeze everything over, so we can assume that he prefers extremely cold weather for a reason. Moreover, since the beginning of the ordeal, Omi makes it a point to keep the fireplace burning. This is important as it seems that fire keeps Krampus away. When Tom and Howard go rescue Beth, they find her boyfriend's place frozen over, specifically the fireplace, which has a huge crack from when Krampus went all the way down. Beth herself got caught when going out in the blizzard, but no one in the Angle home was confronted by Krampus or his minions until the fireplace burned out. After it went out the first time, Omi turned it back on and it stayed that way until the elves broke in and purposefully threw something on it to make it burn out. It is only after the fireplace goes out for good that Krampus goes down the Angle's chimney and takes out Omi. Based on the evidence, I think we can confidently say that Krampus is either damaged by fire or fire is enough to keep him at bay. No one in the Angle family tries to use fire as a way to fight Krampus, and that's because Omi, the only one who seems to know anything about Krampus, decides to keep the information all to herself. All she says is to keep the fireplace lit, but she doesn't bother explaining why, even when she gives her Krampus backstory. The whole time, the family could have been making torches and lighting the place up enough to make it past Christmas, instead of getting picked off one by one. However, there is one major reason why this wouldn't be the best solution: the minions. While Krampus himself didn't show up until the fireplace was out for good, his minions are another story. Almost half the family got taken out by them even while the fireplace was burning. One could argue that the attacks didn't start happening until the fireplace went out the first time, so maybe if the fireplace never went out, they wouldn't have had to deal with the minions. However, even before that happens, we hear them walking around upstairs. Also, it is the elves themselves who show up to put the fire out for good. All in all, while fire may make a great weapon against Krampus himself, it doesn't seem to be a surefire way to stop the minions, unless Howard had a flamethrower they could use. With direct confrontation being taken out of the equation, we're left with 3 solutions that prevent the Krampus situation altogether. The first of these is to simply be a better family. The whole Krampus ordeal happens because Max is disillusioned with his current family and destroys his Christmas letter, alongside the well wishes he had for the family. However, if we trace it back, it could all have been stopped if Tom or Max's sister Beth had simply stepped in when Stevie and Jordan were reading Max's Christmas letter. Instead, Beth tells Max not to make problems, and Tom just watches as Max gets humiliated by his cousins. Had Beth been a better sister or Tom a better father, they could have put a stop to it before Max was completely embarrassed, making him give up on his family. However, while taking care of your family would be a good solution for this movie, and life in general, there are no assurances that Stevie and Jordan wouldn't find other ways to bully Max throughout the holidays. If it wasn't the Christmas letter, it's likely that Max would have been fed up with his family over something else. Since it's almost impossible for him to avoid dealing with his extended family, the next best solution is to simply stop celebrating Christmas and celebrate Festivus instead. As I mentioned earlier, Krampus has to be summoned before he appears, but not just by anyone. He needs to be summoned by someone who believes in Christmas. As Omi puts it,
Es geht nicht das, was du tust.
In other words,
it's not what you do, it's what you believe and what you've given up in here.
To be able to summon Krampus, he must first believe in the spirit of Christmas, and then essentially betray it. the way that Omi did when she wished her family away, and the way Max did when he threw out his well wishes for the family. One way to avoid this is to simply cancel Christmas. Without Christmas, there is no Santa, and more importantly, no Krampus. There are other holidays that your family can celebrate at the end of the year, including Hanukkah and Kwanzaa. But if you feel bad about appropriating any of these holidays, you can always just celebrate Festivus. Made popular by Seinfeld, Festivus was actually invented by author Daniel O'Keefe in 1966, and is an alternative to the commercialism of Christmas. It includes a family dinner as well as two parts called the airing of grievances and the feats of strength. During the airing of grievances, participants lash out about the different ways everyone has disappointed them throughout the year.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're gonna hear about it.
And in the feats of strength, the head of the household picks someone to wrestle them.
Until you pin me, George, Festivus is not over.
Oh, please, someone stop this.
Let's rumble!
While it's mostly considered a parody holiday, the Engel family would benefit in more ways than one by celebrating Festivus instead of Christmas. In addition to avoiding a Krampus situation, they wouldn't have to stress out about the house decor, fancy dishes, or having to put up with their annoying family members without fighting back. However, the chances of them opting out of Christmas for Festivus or another holiday is slim. But fortunately, there is a simpler way to stop Max from summoning Krampus, and it doesn't involve changing holidays, using fire, or even necessarily being a good family. The last and best solution to beating Krampus is to simply tell Max that Santa isn't real. The whole movie comes down to Max unintentionally summoning Krampus because he still believes in the spirit of Christmas. So what better way to prevent it all from happening than by killing his Christmas spirit altogether before it even becomes a problem? If Max's parents had told him earlier in the year that Santa doesn't exist, everything would have been different. Max wouldn't have gotten into a fight at the start of the film because he would agree that Santa is just
a cheap marketing ploy invented to sell Pepsi, Coke. You know what I mean?
Max also wouldn't have written a Christmas letter, so Stevie and Jordan wouldn't have had the chance to read it out loud and humiliate him. Max wouldn't be writing to an imaginary being about his family only to turn around and take those well wishes back because his family is being terrible. A secular Max who doesn't believe in Santa will never get the chance to quote-unquote give up on his Christmas spirit and accidentally summon Krampus because he won't have a Christmas spirit. Remember, summoning Krampus is all about what you believe in, so no Santa also means no Krampus. What's ironic about this particular solution is that in the movie's reality, Santa could very well be real. But again, since Krampus is working as a sidekick to Santa, it doesn't really help our situation at all if he exists or not. What it all comes down to is belief, and the whole family will be better off if Max just doesn't believe at all. As for the rest of us, there's always Festivus.
A Festivus for the rest of us!
Thanks for watching our video. We're trying out this new series, so if you like it and you want to see more of it, leave a comment and let us know what movie we should try to beat next. Take care, and we'll see you next time.